Now cutting humor on the outside, joining Mucho Gusto, and has gone to the front. And now another twist of fate, lets loose and down the center, tries to run down cutting humor. Another twist of fate coming with every stride as they go to the wire. Cutting humor just got in from another twist of fate.
As they come for home with under a quarter mile to go, War of Will's in traffic and still well back and still a lot to do for War of Will with a furlong to go, and it's Spinoff who's taking a short lead from battling By My Standards, and By My Standards for Gabriel Saez. It's By My Standards and Spinoff By My Standards at 22 to 1 to win the Louisiana Derby.
On the inside, Code of Honor, and Code of Honor means business. He's into the clear. Hidden Scroll digs deep, but Code of Honor blows past, and Code of Honor is on to the front. And here's Bourbon War unleashing a big run down the center, but Code of Honor is going to hang on to win the Fountain of Youth 3/4 of a length over a flying Bourbon War second.
Cortland Simmons with you here at the CS Racing Report Road to the Roses series, and we are covering the Grade 1 Florida Derby, $1 million at Gulfstream Park in Hallandale, Florida. Field of 11 going into the gate for this 100-point Derby race, 100 points to the winner, 40 to second, 20 to third, and 10 to the fourth place finisher. Let's quickly get into the post positions before we break this race down in earnest. And number 1 is Hidden Scroll. He is going to be the post time favorite. More than likely, he's the morning line favorite at 5 to 2. Top Equibase speed figure of 115. He ran a 104 in his debut before he was roasted on the front end in finishing 4th as the favorite in the Fountain of Youth. He's 5 to 2. His race record, of course, he has 1 win from 2 career starts, including that, along with that 4th place finish in the Fountain of Youth. Current out of the Todd Pletcher barn. He is a son of Curlin, who he's a proven commodity on the turf, but he didn't run so well in the Kentucky Jockey Club back in November during the Thanksgiving holiday period. Went back to the turf and ran 3rd in the Dania Beach. And he's coming in here for a hot Todd Pletcher barn. He's 15 to 1. Top Equibase speed figure of 99, and he, of course, as I said, he's 15 to 1. His race record, 2 wins from 6 starts with 2 third-place finishes. Was very, very good in the Bourbon Stakes in a photo finish that Matt Bernier called right dead on the wire there. It took almost 10 minutes for that photo to be determined. But Kern is coming out of the number 2, and everyone's curious to see whether that Curlin form will surface in the Florida Derby, and he'll be coming out of number 2. Number 3 is Kenny McPeak's Harvey Wallbanger. He is the upset winner at 29 to 1 of the Holy Bull. He's never been out of the money in 5 starts, 2 firsts, 3 seconds, very consistent, and we'll break him down a little bit more. He's at a value price at 15 to 1. It'll be interesting to see if those odds fluctuate, whether they go up or down by post time. Number 4 is one of the favorites, Bourbon War, out of Mark Henning's barn. He is 15 to 1, excuse me, he's 7 to 2, and he has, of course, 2 wins and 4 starts with a 2nd place finish and a 3rd. So he's got a very, very interesting record in his career. He was 4th in the Remsen Stakes, so that might be a little bit of a misprint there. But his top Equibase is 110 in comparison to Harvey Wallbanger's 104. He'll be 7 to 2 coming out of post 4. Number 5 is Everfast for Dale Romans, who has had a hard time sort of being able to get traction and find a Derby contender. Horse did finish, he ran well in the Holy Bull, did not run so well in the Fountain of Youth. We'll talk more about that. He's 20 to 1 coming out of hole number 4. In 8 starts, he has 1 win, 1 second, and 1 third. Hard Bell is another long shot in here at 50 to 1. Only 1 win in 13 starts. His top Equibase speed figure in comparison to Everfast, who has a 102 ESF, is 79. So he is significantly slower than the contenders in this Florida Derby. He's 50 to 1. He has 1 win in those 13 starts, 1 second, and 1 third. Maximum Security is sort of playing the role that Hidden Scroll had in the Fountain of Youth. He's a horse that was a $16,000 claiming. He was in a $16,000 claiming race. He has been sensational in 3 starts for trainer Jason Service. He was absolutely devastating in the starts. We'll talk more about that. He's got a lot of speed, but there's a lot of other things that seem to be working in his benefit or could very well be favorable to him in this Florida Derby. 3 wins and 3 starts. Top equibase speed figure is 109, which is a very, very nice number. He'll be 9-2. He's one of the favorites. Bodie Express, he's winless. He's a maiden, 2 seconds in 4 starts. But his ESF is 103, so he's kind of an interesting play from a long shot standpoint. He'll be coming out of the 8th post. Code of Honor will arguably be in a battle in the odds for favoritism in this Florida Derby of 2019. He was the winner of the Fountain of Youth after a dull effort in the Mucho Macho Man. His troubles or his his missteps have been well documented after running second in the Champagne prior to the Breeders' Cup. And subsequently afterwards, he rebounded very nicely in the Fountain of Youth to win that race. Top equibase speed figure of 111, which sparkles pretty nicely and very shinily, if that's a word. He's 3-1. Arguably, he'll be the favorite by post time. He has 2 wins and 4 starts with a second place finish. Union's Destiny is also interesting at 30-1. He was 6th in the Fountain of Youth. He has a top ESF equibase speed figure of 101. In 4 starts, he has 1 win, 1 second, and 1 third. He'll be 30-1, coming out of hole number 10. And coming from the outside is Garter and Ty. He was very interesting in the Mucho Macho Man. Didn't run so well next time out. I believe that was the Holy Bull. He is a very nice Florida bred. He has a decent record in 8 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds. And he'll be 15-1 in the odds versus Union's Destiny, who is 30-1. When analyzing this 2019 Florida Derby, it's very, very interesting. People are still favoring Hidden Scroll to be able to do better than what he did at 1 mile and a 16th in this 9 furlong test. People believe that Bill Mott has gotten him under control in terms of being able to rate, but this looks like the same scenario that all deja vu again, that what we saw in the Sunland Derby. Everybody, myself included, thought that Mucho Gusto had shown a new dimension by being able to rate in the Bob Lewis. He was coming out of the number 1 in the Sunland Derby. He was gunned out of there, and all of a sudden we had a seriously hot 4th of July barbecue in the month of March. He got roasted. He's persona non grata, and he's pretty much off the grid unless Bob Baffert changes his mind. He got absolutely burned to a crisp in that race. And Hidden Scroll is coming out of the number 1, and I think people are going to find it hard to believe that he's not going to be sent. And number 2, once he is, can he relax, and can he finish at 9 furlongs? My theory is this. He's coming out of the number 1. Some people believe that he actually will get the lead, and unlike what happened with Gladiator King, who since has gone on to win the Hutchison Stakes after being also burned to a crisp in the Fountain of Youth with Hidden Scroll, to me it feels like that he will be able to get the lead, but then again, Maximum Security coming out of the number 7 has tactical speed. He's shown in his 3 starts he doesn't absolutely have the need to have the lead, so that's what's going to be interesting. He can sit there and play cat and mouse and watch Hidden Scroll and see what he does, and then either get tempted to get caught up in a pace that many people believe won't be as torrid as the Fountain of Youth. But the bottom line is he's still going an extra distance of ground, and what I'm curious about is that if he does set a lively pace, can he be an improved horse from what happened in the Fountain of Youth? And if he couldn't get the distance, even despite the fact he did run rapidly in the beginning of the Fountain of Youth, what makes you think that he can get 9 furlongs after failing at 1 mile and an 1/8? And some people believe that he's gotten his issues under control. And so that's kind of really the most interesting dynamic of this Florida Derby. Maximum Security, he's jumping from 7 furlongs to 9 furlongs. He won his first race in December the 20th by 9 3/4 lengths. An optional allowance. Then in his second start, he was able to win by, I think, 6.5. I think he won that race by 6.5 on the 24th of the new year, January. And then he won his last start, 7 furlongs in 121.72 by 14 1/4 lengths. Very similar to Hidden Scroll winning his maiden by 14.5. But people don't believe he can make the quantum leap from 7 to 9 furlongs. I believe this horse is a serious contender. But then again, I said that Hidden Scroll was going to win the Fountain of Youth, and we all know how that turned out. And I'm also the one who believed that Mucho Gusto was the under-talked about horse that was going to win the Kentucky Derby. So as you can see, my track record is definitely a reliable one that all you viewers can definitely put trust in as far as picking Kentucky Derby winners and contenders, win contenders in these preps. But I believe I'm going to take a shot with him. I believe he's going to be right there. I think he can actually carry his speed to the 9 furlongs. It's a lot to ask And what may end up happening will be the same thing as Hidden Scroll, that he lacks the experience, or particularly around 2 turns. But that's what's going to be interesting, is if Hidden Scroll can really be in a controlled environment in terms of using his speed. Some people just believe he's that brilliant a horse. He's a son of Hardspun. You've got to love the pedigree, but at the end of the day, it's not so much about pedigree, it's about performance. And I'm not so sure with his running style that he's going to be able to relax and rate any better than if he ends up running off. Is he going to run everybody's socks off? Now, again, I'm not actually picking him for this race, if you couldn't tell already, and then he's going to end up winning by 7. In other words, I'm going to jinx myself and give him a chance to prove otherwise. Maybe that's how he comes through, by picking against him. In this race, also the closers. Obviously, Code of Honor got first run and an inside trip on Bourbon War. And, it's believed that he's going to need to be a little bit more, not so much aggressive, but he's just going to have to show a little bit more early speed in this race. And he might be in a position to be fit enough for Mark Henning to do that. And so if that happens, and he has the ability with the improvements in these 28 days leading up to this race, then the extra distance shouldn't be a problem. He should kick in and be able to do it without having to come from as many links, without having to make as big a deficit. That's the theory on Bourbon War. A lot of people believe that will come to fruition. I believe he has a shot in here definitely to hit the board. You definitely use him as a handicapper, and as a sentimentalist, you got to believe being by Tapit and being the way he closed. But then again, it's a mile and a 16th. We're going a mile and an 1/8 this time, and so therefore you have to establish for a longer sustained time that rhythm that I've talked about on previous podcasts. And I'm not as sure, I'm not as confident going into this that he can do that. And I also believe that Code of Honor, as a byproduct, is going to get first run. The question is going to be, is the punch going to be there that he had in the Fountain of Youth? And as we all know, the Fountain of Youth wasn't a particularly impressive final quarter mile, given all of the pace that went on in the early going, which, as I said before, incinerated Hidden Scroll. So I'm not so sure if the improvement is there at a mile and an 1/8, that if you approximate that Code of Honor is going to be the horse to beat. But I like his chances better than what I felt like, in the hours leading up to this podcast. So I'm liking him in here to get first run, to at least do well if he doesn't win it. As I said before, the closers, I think, might be at a disadvantage. Some people believe that this go-around, for whatever reason, that Hidden Scroll is going to be able to separate himself and make it impossible for everyone to catch. But that's where I think maximum security comes in. Also, Harvey Wallbanger is interesting at 15-1. If he goes higher than 15-1, you got to jump all over him. But I would say that even if his odds drop a little bit, he's a decent play. People believe that he benefited from the inside trip, being unmolested, being able to get through there without being stopped, without being blocked, stopped, or having to, check. And he was able to win that race, but he's going to get more than likely that same scenario in this Florida Derby, with the added ground, of course, being the major X factor. And I think he's going to kick in, but the question is going to be, what if he doesn't get that inside trip? Can he be a little wide and be able to finish? This is another deja vu, just like with Country House. We thought that the added distance would help him, and he didn't run as well as expected. And as Harvey Wallbanger, in addition to Bourbon War and to some extent Code of Honor, are they going to be the same casualties going the added route of ground? But I like his chances in here to, number one, hit the board, and to possibly be an upset contender, whether there's a barbecue on the front end or not. I think he's got an opportunity. He's had plenty of time to get ready for this race, but once again, we're dealing with the added distance, and that is going to ultimately determine, who are, the pretenders from the contenders, who are the men from the boys, or as Bob Baffert, as I've mentioned ad nauseum, where the cream rises to the top. So when you break this all down, who am I picking for the Florida Derby? My picks for the Florida Derby, I'm going to make transparently clear to everybody out there that when looking at what the guys from some of the other podcasts, everybody's liking Hidden Scroll, Bourbon War, using him, maybe even Current having an impact on this race. Along with, of course, Maximum Security, Code of Honor, and so forth. That's been, the wise man's, that's kind of been the smart man's thinking upon this Florida Derby. And we'll do some comparative picking upon, once you get a chance to take a look at all this. I believe that when you look at all this, again, as you all know, that it's always smart to play in multiple ways at the betting windows. And I'm going to go from scenario, as I always do, from 3 to 2 to 1, which, for some of you now will probably surmise there's a pattern going on here at the CS Racing Report, that the guy isn't decisive. But I think we all will always, I think it's really more of a case of most people are going to play a few different ways. So I think this is probably beneficial if any of this has been useful to the viewers out there. My first scenario is the 4, the 9, the 3, and the 1. That would be Bourbon War, Code of Honor, Harvey Wallbanger, Hidden Scroll finishing 4th. I think that's a possible scenario, that Bourbon War will like the distance, that he might even tactically be able to upgrade his strategy in this race and be able to move a little bit sooner, regardless of what Code of Honor is doing, make his run and win this race. Scenario number 2 is Hidden Scroll. I will use him if I was at the betting windows with you folks in Hallandale and around other parts of the country where this race is going to be simulcast. Hidden Scroll, Code of Honor, Bourbon War, and then Maximum Security finishing 4th, having enough talent to finish 4th despite the added trip from 7 to 9 furlongs. The 1, the 9, the 4, the 7. Then the scenario that I think actually will happen, I think Maximum Security pulls the upset. The 7, the 9, Code of Honor, I think he's going to run well regardless of what scenario you want to focus on. The 7, the 9, the 3, Harvey Wallbanger, and the number 4, Bourbon War. And that would mean, obviously, upon those numbers being released, that means Hidden Scroll doesn't even hit the board. That's a pretty bold statement, given that it does kind of favor him in terms of if he can show his speed. I'm just not so sure he can carry it the way that I thought he would in the Fountain of Youth. But as I said before, now what I'm giving everyone the opportunity to do is, or myself, is to jinx myself and he ends up running a huge race. And certainly Bill Mott and those who support him would love to see that. And I would certainly love to see him prove, as I said before a couple weeks back, that he's not off the Derby trail. That was definitely, that's been confirmed. He's in the Florida Derby. This is his chance to prove that he's the real deal. And I'm just not as convinced as I was a few weeks back, even though I believe Bill Mott is among the most trusted of trainers in this business. But again, my final pick is going to be the 7, the 9, the 3, and the 4. For those of you who need to review, my previous superfecta was the 4, the 9, the 3, and the 1. Bourbon War, Code of Honor, Harvey Wallbanger, Hidden Scroll, the 1, the 9, the 4, the 7. That would be Hidden Scroll, Code of Honor, Bourbon War, and Maximum Security. I think that's a pretty good 4. And then my final and my number 1 pick, top 4 in the superfecta, the 7, Maximum Security, the 9, Code of Honor, the number 3, which would be, of course, Harvey Wallbanger, and the number 4, Bourbon War. So those are, I think that's a pretty nice trifecta of superfecta picks there for the Florida Derby. And as Bob Newmeyer would say, make your bets and let the champagne flow on you if things go well. Again, the Grade 1 Florida Derby, 100 points to the winner in this 9 furlong prep, which is, of course, yielded 24 Kentucky Derby winners, 19 Preakness champions, and 16 winners of the Test of the Champions, the Belmont Stakes. A very, very effective prep. In the last few years, we've seen horses like Barbaro in 2006, Big Brown in 2008, Orb in 2013, Nyquist in 2016, and Always Dreaming in 2017 capture this 9 furlong event and then go on to glory in the Kentucky Derby by winning the Roses. So very effective prep. There's going to be a lot of focus and a lot of people believing that the horses that either win or do very, very well in this race will also be major players in the Triple Crown. We shall see, and we'll cover it here at the CS Racing Report Road to the Roses series.